since inception of this contract, there's been a lot of problems, a lot of inconsistencies. There's been a lot of finger pointing. After the last workshop, it's not the traffic light, it's the cameras. Now we're turning on the cameras. When I say we're talking about the city. And because the law was passed in 2010, and there was no uniformity placed in the law, like you do with DUIs, statewide at a DUI level, that a person is considered drunk, and that's statewide. But because they didn't do that, and they put these red light camera laws into effect, you have a lot of inconsistencies throughout the system. And I think that we should, as a elected body, we have a moral obligation to protect our law-abiding citizens who are being fleeced by this system. So with that in mind, I respectfully request the termination of the contract with American Traffic Solutions.
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Nurse.
As you know, at the last meeting, what I sort of focused on was the decline in the number of traffic tickets. You know, we peaked at around 3,500 a month, and we were at 1,043 in January. And from my perspective, you really had two things that have happened. One, we've had a sort of relentless pursuit of problems, and as we keep tweaking it, that drives it down. But I think the other thing that's happened is I do think there has been a fairly significant cultural shift in people remembering that, oh, there is a brake pad on my car, and so it's possible to hit the brake rather than the gas when you see a yellow light. We are approximately at break even. I asked, I got the ticket numbers for February, and it was 1,099. And then I asked, well, what was how much of the time was the lieutenant, so the supervisors, the red light cameras, how much of his time was he using on that? And that was 3 of 8 hours a day, which if you just translate that, it's about $3,500 a month for him. And so, if you were to allocate time from the clerk's office, time from the hearing officer, much less the various supervisors who have been involved in all this, we are, at approximately break even. So, but depending upon how you want to define it, but I would suggest that the logical thing would be what the administration suggested yesterday, which was, sort of acknowledge that we're not going to renew the contract, and that we're going to end it when we hit break even, or September 30th, whichever comes first. And I think that's a logical kind of thing to do. It acknowledges that tickets are down by round numbers, 70%. Now that doesn't mean we've solved all the problems. We've got lots of problems with particularly interactions between pedestrians, bicyclists, and cars. And I happen to think that's our most immediate traffic issue. But I would offer an amendment to request administration to end the contract when it determines that we are at break even, or September 30th, whichever comes first.
I'll second.
And I'll stop there.
That was an amended motion?
Yes.
We have, how many cards you have?
We have 3 cards.
Why don't we go ahead and...
Yes, please.
There we go. You all already know how I would like to vote. If the contract isn't killed today, the program won't last very long, given what their price was set as well yesterday about winding down when it can't pay for itself. To help figure this out, and because I'm a programmer, I wrote this program last night that converts the complex APS payment calculation system into a simple one-page calculator that anybody with a computer can run on their machine. You only need the number performance summary report, which is a standard ATS report. We could even do that for January and February. The difficult part about all this, and I'll show you with just these two examples, there were more tickets in September 2003. There were 1,675 tickets. I know this is tiny, but all the zeros that you see in this column are cameras that we're getting zero profit from. And when I change it to October and hit calculate, you'll see some of those camera locations change. The number of tickets doesn't matter. It's the number of tickets per camera that matters as to how much money actually comes into the city. Because you can see, you know, this camera location, the city's getting only $702 in. In this camera location, the city's getting $9,336 in. But this utility that doesn't need internet access or anything, it's just JavaScript, can be run on any computer and can help you, you know, there are places to plug in here what the pay percent is that you think you're going to get. 72 is higher than we've ever gotten, so I put that in as a safety figure. Cost for police, cost for clerk, cost for staff. Of course, these are just guesses on my part, but this is a tool to help you determine quickly without having to go through a lot of arduous mathematical calculations. So I wanted to offer that up to you, and thank you for your time and for listening to me and on the last 3 years, and thank you for having me at the workshop and allowing me to speak. Thanks.
Next speaker is Melissa. Last name looks like Wendell. W-A-N-D-A-L.
It's Melissa Wando, but I'm going to speak on 7. Is that,
Okay, I've got you down for 6 and 7. Do you want to speak to this?
do you want me to? Okay.
7's the refunds.
I just wasn't sure.
6 is the
Thank you so
contract.
much
and
for your
7's the
time.
refunds.
I really appreciate each and every one of you. And I'm here for the human value of the red light safety cameras. My name is Melissa Wando. The red light safety cameras are not just red light safety cameras. They have a name. It's the Mark Wando Traffic Safety Act.
Did you say who she's with? She's a resident, she lives here?
I'm saying it right now. I'm Melissa Wando, and my husband was Mark Wando. The Mark Wando Traffic Safety Act that was passed May 2010. Yeah, and so I'm here as the human value of the red light safety cameras because they simply reduce the risk. I keep up with the statistics too. I'm not somebody that just came along and is just passionate about putting anything up. It was about trying to find a way to curb the behaviors of red light running, trying to retrain the brains of people to get them to understand to stop when red. With all of this opposition with the red light safety cameras, I'm into, give me information, give me facts, but don't give me just opinions. And I think what happens is this sensationalism of these cameras. Everybody's still giving everybody excuses. People need to stop at red lights, period. They're breaking a safety law. I was 9 months pregnant when my husband was taken out of our lives. My brother was a driver, my husband was a passenger, and they were stopped at a red light. My brother proceeded through the inner lives of the other motorist. All I'm asking for you today is just to remember that there is a life behind these cameras. I thank you for your time, and I sincerely appreciate that you have to, I understand that you have to take the time to look at all the facts. I get that. But I also just want people to understand that there's lives behind it, and there's families that depend on me to advocate on their behalf. And all I'm asking for you today is to take the time to remember that lives are at stake. It's not just about a camera. A camera doesn't make somebody do something. Does a camera capture somebody going through a red light? Absolutely. They do that. 95% of the people that run those lights do not get a second. And it's great with your numbers. It's great because the numbers mean that people are no longer running lights at those intersections. Some communities decide to move those cameras, other communities decide not to, and that's your decision. And I respect each and every one of you for what you have to do each and every day. But again, I'm just asking you today to remember that there is a human value to red light safety cameras. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ralph Dove.
based totally on the need for safety, in that our city had an epidemic of red light running, and it endangered our citizens. And I do agree that we have an obligation to protect our citizens, and the public safety is our most important portion of this job. T-bone intersections, T-bone crashes are the most dangerous. Those are the ones that people die in. Those are the ones that people are permanently injured in, wind up being, changing their entire life. Thank you for bringing the human factor, and sorry for your loss. I think the statistic that whether it's our staff saying 95% don't get a second one, or whether it's Matt saying 90% don't get a second one, either one of those statistics to me is very, very persuasive. It changes behavior, it changes thought pattern. From the point of view of the mayor's most recent suggestions of doing away with them when they don't break even, or by September 30th, I don't necessarily agree with that, because I see their expense as being minimal. If I understand the contract properly, and I'll ask legal to confirm this, if we have a camera that doesn't get to the quota, it doesn't cost us money. Is that accurate?
That's correct. It's cost neutral.
So even if this got to the point where it was costing us money, I would compare that cost to what does it cost to have an officer on the street. And we heard our interim police chief come and tell us that to run a red light operation safely, it takes 8 officers. We also saw stats that there were, from Mr. Fornell, that there were 245 or 255 people that had gotten tickets 4 times. Somehow that was criticized because if it was a infraction that was caught by a police officer, they would have gotten points. And that's true, but if we were relying on just our police officers to ticket red light running, very few people would be getting it. The cameras are what give the volume. In my opinion, I would be willing to pay extra for the cameras to be there for public safety. It is not about income, it's about public safety. The other concern that I have is that the critics of this program have never really offered an alternative. How else do we stop red light running, or do we just go back to the epidemic we had? It's rather easy to be extremely critical of a 1/10 of a second here or there, or 10 feet up or down. I haven't heard anything from any of the red light critics of how we keep our streets safe. And to me, it's all about public safety. And I will hope that we keep these contracts in place, even if it costs us money, because our job is to make our streets safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Ferris?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I appreciate the opportunity to be able to vote on this. It's important to me, and so I want to thank you for your patience and putting up with my conflict that I couldn't get out of. When I ran for office in 2011, the cameras were a brand new issue in the city, and every debate I went to, I was asked about whether I would support red light cameras or not. So I had to, do my homework and make a decision about whether I was going to say yes or no. And after looking at some information, I decided that the general body of what was out there concluded that injury crashes were reduced, and I thought that was a good thing. I live on 29th Avenue and 65th Street, which is right in the middle of 38th Avenue and 66th Street on one side, and Tyrone and 66 on the other side, and I can tell you it was a daily occurrence to hear sirens in my neighborhood because they were going to one of those intersections for crashes. So I decided during the campaign to publicly support red light cameras, and everywhere I went, when I was asked the question, that's the position I took, that's the commitment I made, and I was elected, you know. So I think I have a commitment to the folks that went to the ballot box and voted for me, in the absence of any proof that my position was incorrect. I don't think I should change my mind. I think I need to live up to the commitment I made and the public stance that I took, and that's what I'm going to do. The numbers, the actual numbers of crashes are down. When you just look at, you know, they go from 14 to 8 or 12 to 6. In hard numbers, crashes are down. In hard numbers, injury crashes are down. The one struggle that I was having was there's some statistical analysis that says the crashes are down at red light camera intersections a little bit less as a percentage than they are overall in the city. And I was struggling with trying to figure that out. If you remember at the workshop, I asked both Matt and city staff about how do I reconcile that? How do I understand this difference? And I'm not sure anybody really knows, and I'm not sure anybody can answer that question. But here's what I've concluded logically in my own mind. We're not the only municipality with red light cameras. We're surrounded by municipalities with red light cameras. Pasadena has them, Gulfport has them, Kansas City has them. I suggest logically that, Mr. Chair, if I could go on, I suggest that one of the answers as to why crashes overall may be down a little bit more is that the prevalence of cameras around us has in fact changed behavior, has in fact made people think about what they're doing at a red light. I think that is one logical explanation for why crashes at non-red light camera intersections are down equally or maybe even a little bit more than crashes and injury crashes at red light camera. The nice thing about my position is I don't think anybody can prove it or disprove it, and I think the logic is sound. So I think that having them around makes people drive differently and make decisions differently, and not only differently, but more safely. So I continue to support red light cameras. I will not vote to end them. I'll vote to keep them. I also agree with some of what Councilmember Kennedy just said. You know, if we say out of one side of our mouth it's not about revenue, to suggest that when we have to start paying money for it, it's no longer worth it, to me is inconsistent. To me, if it's about safety, you don't look at the profit line. You don't look at that last column to see if you're making money or not. It's either working for safety purposes or it's not working for safety purposes. I will leave up to the mayor when to terminate the contract, but I will not vote to end it early.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Cornell.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I think one thing that I'd like to have some clarity on is the idea, it's kind of like cell phone towers. Every single time somebody wants to build a cell phone tower, somebody comes out and gives us a report that it's a crisis with 911. But the crisis with 911 only comes up in relation to the cell phone towers going in. Nobody ever comes to us, like right now, nobody's coming to us and saying there's a crisis with our 911 system, because in fact, there's not a crisis with our 911 system. And for years, probably hundreds of times, we have asked our police department, do they have all the resources they need to meet what they need to do? And they have said over and over again, yes, we do. Not one single time did they say, no, we have a real problem with red light running and we need extra police officers to address this. So I think we need to keep the discussion in the right range of where it belongs. I think Ken Burke had a whole list of reasons why this wasn't a well thought out program. 2/10 of a second is 2/10 of that. You know, that's quick. That's a small amount of time. And I don't think we should do that to our citizens, just like I don't think our officers should go out and intentionally look for minor things to get, you know, they should look at the serious things. But I think there's a limit on what we should do, so I'm a no. I will not vote for the amended resolution. I will vote for the original one, or I'll vote for, if anybody wants to propose after that, if it's voted down, to give a time certain, but it doesn't need to be tomorrow. It, you know, will end at the end of this fiscal year. I would support that as well. But you know, I think if we had this crisis going on, and I understand whenever anything happens, it's a problem. I mean, one person having an accident is too many. I get that. I agree with that. But none of the professionals in place were coming to us and saying there's a crisis. I didn't hear it one single time, not since I've been on council, not the years before that, not when we tried to do a study to see if we needed more police officers. Nobody said that we do. So some honest discussion then needs to happen one way or the other, and frankly, they both can't be true. It can't be true that we've had this crisis for this number of years, and all the things that people were saying of everything's okay, those two things can't both be true. So I think the like I said, I think Clerk Burke made a lot of good points. The program was not completely thought through, and I'm going to be in favor of eliminating the contract. I would support a time certain that the contract's eliminated, but I won't just support it open-ended. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Austin?
Thank you. I want to thank you for your story today. One of the things I always say is that I believe that stories change hearts and minds. However, don't think that anyone on the council here, I think we would all agree that public safety is our top priority. But what we may disagree on is the approach for how we actually reduce red light running, and whether red light cameras are a causality or a plurality for whether it actually reduces red light running. I did campaign on this issue that I would end this program, and I will tell you that since I've been elected, I've really wrestled with it. I've evaluated it from every perspective. I've sat and watched the cameras. I've talked to judges. I've talked to lawyers. I've talked to police officers. And I will say that this is not an easy decision. But I will tell you that I'm not comfortable with the way the program's been implemented or managed. And at this time, it's not something I can support. One of the things I did, because I feel like I've been kind of, you know, tussled with from every side about this, I decided to go to a group that didn't have a dog in the fight. And so I found some research from the National Cooperative Highway Research Program through the National Academies. And this program was put together so that when state and local transportation boards can't agree on an issue, they research these issues and determine best practices. And they have a report called the Timing of Yellow and All Red Intervals. And through that report, their solution is longer yellow light timing actually reduces accidents. And so for that reason, I am still a no vote. I did support Councilmember Nurse's amended motion, though, because I recognize that this is a problem and we need a plan in place for how we're going to move forward. I also don't want to sit up here and be in a gridlock. I think it's important that we collaborate with each other and come to a solution. And so I am in favor of a compromise, which would be September. It would allow staff time to put a plan in place for if there's other solutions, including some of that new. Last week, some new technology was brought up that they actually can change timing of the light based on if cars are still going through. So I'd like to allow some time to find other solutions that can help address this problem, because I think what we disagree on is the approach to the solution, not that it's a problem. Thank you.
Councilmember Rice?
Thank you, Mrs. Wendell, for appearing today and sharing your story. And it's one I listened to very closely and take to heart. And I'm summarize, the safety and security framework for this discussion is a very powerful one, and I don't think, as Councilmember Foster just alluded to, I think all of us up here are very concerned with public safety first and foremost. But I also think there's another important framework as well, and it's fairness, trust, and perception. And that there could have been some better ways we could have handled and managed this program along the way to inspire better public trust. I do think that there are some other ways we could look at addressing the issue of pedestrian safety and safety at intersections. And even the much referred to document, the Mean Streets report, does say that intersection design is one of the most important things we could look at for improving safety. And yet, through the past several years, the money for intersection safety improvement design has been cut on the federal level and on the state level. And red light cameras were mentioned as a possible tactic to address safety issues, but red light cameras are more operational, but red light cameras were not listed as the first priority to address safety issues. We've had some critics who've done a lot of work looking at the numbers and asking a lot of important questions, and thank you, Matt, for your work. But I'm still leaning very much against this program. However, I can count, and I've heard what everybody has said so far. I think the mayor has shown a lot of leadership in bringing a proposal to us to look at a September end date, and I think that that would be considered as a half-life victory for people who are opponents of the program and who want to see this program improved.
Okay, Councilmember Cornell.
I would just like clarity on the motion. Because I'm hearing some people say it's September 30th and time certain. I don't remember hearing that in the motion. Can you just read the motion?
To request the administration end the ATS contract, whatever, when we're at break even, or September 31st, whichever comes first.
Oh, or September
Fritz at the Safety Summit, he indicated that the intersection repairs and remodels that we have in this city are in jeopardy because the cost is going to double to triple for each of those intersections. So I do agree that intersection design is a issue that can help the safety of intersections. But even what we have on our books right now that we anticipate to do, we may not be able to accomplish because of the additional costs involved there. And I just would ask that we allow the cameras to continue to change people's driving habits. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Nick.
First, I want to thank the mayor. I know it probably took a lot to put this memo out. I was in a roundtable with Dr. Grego and Gibbs High School yesterday when this came out. And, but I can just say, you man, your word. You said all along you were for the cameras. I knew that before you even endorsed you. And I know we didn't see eye to eye on everything, but you also said that there were problems within the system and people would, things were happening to people that shouldn't have been. You had a problem with that. So I thank you for your leadership on that issue. And Mr. Matt, I want to thank you publicly. And I've been doing that. Probably one of the interviews that I had. From day one, you've been right here. And it's unfortunate that we didn't have forthright and a lot of stuff coming to us. And only after you shine a light on the situation, then we get reports. Then we get stuff that was omitted. And I don't think stuff should be ran that way. It shouldn't be. But of course, that's how it went. It was always a struggle and a battle. Every time you brought something to our attention that was pertinent to this program, it was, here's a critic. Let's beat Matt down. And for the people that want to know what we can do, I was approached by two of our motorcycle clubs. And they told me that we have two motorcycles, and we have one on reserve. And we've been wanting to expand our motorcycle corps. So we bring in roughly around $1 million in revenue just writing tickets on the motorcycle. 100% stays here. And if they pull somebody who got 8 points already, that person is done. He ain't running no more red lights. He ain't driving no more. Not even. And if they do see him, he's going to jail. He's not getting a ticket. They told me that they want to expand the motorcycle corps. I think we should take that capital expense because it'll pay for itself in about a year or two. Expand it to 10 or whatever the officers see fit. Ask them what they think they see fit. I think they're more than capable of mobilizing that and generate revenue that'll stay right here. And I think that's a way to replace this in the time that we have. I was always an advocate of this program was not what I say conceived or administrated properly. You hear us talk about 300 intersections, but we only got 10 of them with cameras in it. Those should have been definite. They could have been confirmed. It should have been traffic study. It should have been engineer's elevation. All that should have been done before you stuck one camera in there. And the perfect time for that would have been the learning process or the education phase that we ran for 3 or 4 months. That never happened. And when Mr. Farrell has spent his own money on public record requests and engineer reports, then people want to go change stuff and get stuff changed. And it shouldn't be that way. So I want to ask you something to this motion. What powers do the council have, and is there any separation expenses that the city would incur with this contract?
You have the power to end the contract. All I'm saying is that we're going to have to bring something back to you to basically unwind it so that there will be a way to continue to have the data available that we need to finish out the process with respect to notices and so forth that have gone out. All that that's done by the vendor right now. So there'll be some cost, but it's not going to be, I would not expect it to be a great cost. There's not going to be any damages to that.
Right, like building municipalities in the country, they're going to pay
No.
$287.
We have the absolute right to end the contract.
That's an motion. I know we said we can only approve or terminate. Can we tell the mayor by this date? Can we give it a date certain or is that our president?
Yes.
So with that in mind, I'll support the amended motion. This means to an end. I know the staff made time, and I thank everybody involved.
Thank you, Councilmember
me, the thing that in some ways has become a little bit sad about the whole thing is that in this debate, we got away from debating the reasons for having the program. It kind of became secondary to the debate. And emblematic of that is a discussion that I had after the workshop. I won't mention the individual I was talking to, but we were talking about the program, and I was talking about the subjectivity and objectivity. Subjectivity being when the officer issues a citation versus the objectivity of having a camera and evidence of the violation. And I mentioned how much more objective the cameras were, and how that if you received a ticket from a camera, you had a greater opportunity to dispute your ticket than if it had been issued by an officer. And the response I received from the individual I was talking with was, yeah, but you won't have to dispute the ticket from the officer because there's less of a chance that you'll get that ticket to begin with, which misses the whole point of the purpose for this program to begin with, which was to try and stop people from running red lights. And that's what the debate should have always been about. Unfortunately, it hasn't been. For me personally, it's always been about safety. If you go back and pull tapes from when we were discussing it back in 2004 or 5 or whenever it was that we were doing that, I never talked about revenues. I always talked about safety, trying to make our intersections safer for drivers, for bicyclists, for pedestrians. Couldn't even tell you, quite frankly, how much we've made in revenues because I really don't care. That's never been what it's been about. And from the first time I discussed red light cameras way back then, and then during my time in the legislature, we always knew, and it was always part of that discussion, that if they worked, if they changed behaviors, revenue was going to go away. So if this was a program you were doing simply because you cared about revenues and you wanted to be able to boost your budget, it wasn't a great program to do because those revenues were going to go away. And they worked. So what I propose today, I feel, or that you received in your memo, is consistent with what I've said from the beginning. It wasn't about me trying to, come out of this looking good or looking bad. I don't care about that. I want to be consistent in the positions that I've taken, and I think this is consistent because what we've seen is we've seen a change in behaviors. And that's a good thing. Anything that we do that changes behaviors in the city and makes our community safer is a good thing. But as I also said, and I'll conclude with this, as I also said in my memo, after these cameras have been removed, we're going to continue to monitor those intersections to see if they remain safe and to see if the behaviors that we had seen prior to the implementation of these cameras returns. It's my sincere hope that that behavior doesn't return and that our intersections continue and we see a continuing decrease in the number of tickets that are issued and of people that are running red lights because behaviors have changed. But if we don't, and if we see a spike back up, to be consistent, I'm going to come back. And we're going to talk about this technology, and if there's any other technologies, we'll talk about those too. Because the bottom line is, we need to have a safe community for our residents and for our visitors, and that's what it, to me, has always been about, and that's what it will always be about. I thank you, members, for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, lose the light source. One of the things I think, a couple of things come to mind, because I've tried to educate you, driver ed teacher. I'm the only one up here that's actually been a professional in that field. And I've tried to reiterate what I have learned and what I've experienced over the years. And facts can't be denied. There are fewer accidents, fewer people get hurt. That's a fact. And all these other excuses, the yellow timing is absolutely blowing my mind. If you take a stopwatch and hold it in your hand and you click it, see how fast you can stop it, you can't stop it within 0.2 of a second. So, I mean, really? Is that going to make a difference? You gotta be kidding me. Use a little common sense, step back and look at it, and it really, that's a real bogus it's illegal. Tell you an interesting story. I shared it with a couple of them. January 2nd, this year is the day that we get sworn in. My daughter, in her race to get here, ran one of those things. She called me last night. She says, she started laughing. She said, we couldn't figure out who got the ticket for running the red light on January 2nd. Her husband's a police officer. He wasn't driving. And she says, she saw the time on it. She says, I was on the way to see you being sworn in as chief. Chief. Yeah. As chairman. Yeah, chief, I'm looking at it. And she got a ticket. I said, oh my gosh. She says, I was wrong. I got caught. Yeah, I got a ticket. So, you know, accepting responsibility goes a long way. And part of the problem here is we got, you know, we have jumped. Matt has brought episode after episode. This is like a book with chapters in it. We started, oh, we can't do it. This is wrong with it. This is wrong with it. This is wrong. We're going all the way now down to timing of the lights. My head's ready to explode. It's crazy. If it's illegal, it's illegal. And you can, you know, my heart goes out to the lady who was here and lost her husband. And that is what we're trying to prevent. And this is one of those things that's absolutely preventable. There was a little black pedal next to the big long one in your car called the brake. You can move your foot from the gas pedal, hit that brake, and it works. And it will slow you down. So all this other stuff we're delving into is crazy. All you have to do is what you're supposed to do. And we wouldn't even have this discussion. What is it that Tampa, who expanded their program, what do they know that we don't know? South Pasadena, all the other communities around us, what do they know that we don't? And they don't have that for all there, apparently. And I can't believe that their programs are any different than ours. And I just think it is a bunch of baloney that we're doing all this stuff on yellow timing and it is just when the light cycles, put your foot on the brake and stop. That's all. And you know, and I'm surprised because a couple of these people up here actually had me for the class, and I would have thought that I would have, you know, somewhere along the line. Well, one of them was gone because I had Mayor Foster too, but you know, I had Mr. Curtis, and somewhere along the line they remembered stuff, and I don't know. I'm
You should taught my son.
What's that? Well, you know, and again, it's really sad we've come to this point. It's really sad. We set our own, and I'm finished with this, we set our own timetable. When we put this in, we were going to give it 3 years. That was what we said, we're going to put them in, and we asked staff, and they said in 3 years, we will have sufficient data. Well, 3 years is not up. It's really up in October, but I can live with September. But that's what the time is. That's self-imposed time that we set. So we set the time, and now we want to do away with it. And we don't have all the facts. So, anyway, we have a question on yeah, whatever it is. Motion. There you go. I get so worked up, man. It just drives me crazy. But anyway, so would you repeat it again so we can?
The motion is to request administration in the ATS contract when we're at
September 30th. We're done with that issue, let's move on. What's the next? We have, that's Mr. again.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have another new business item, which is question the mayor, council, administration, to refund the money for the over 1,700 short yellow ticket issue to law-abiding citizens due to circumstances beyond their control. It has come to our attention that we had a lot of yellow light timings that wasn't proper. They had to be adjusted or adjusted or de-adjusted, depends on what district you're in. And subsequently, a lot of people have gotten tickets at times that were increased. They got tickets at times that were lower. At these intersections, 3 of these intersections definitely had calculation problems because of slow change and whatnot. And it is my request that they get the city make these people whole. That's my motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a couple of lights. Councilman Burns.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I said publicly at the workshop that I supported this proposition, and I just believe that if we made a mistake, notice I said if we made a mistake in the calculation and that mistake caused tickets to be issued, we should own up to the mistake and make it right. That's just how I feel, period. I think that we probably need legal's input. I understand there are other cities who have done this, but I think it would be jumping the gun to just say, let's go make refunds. What I'd like to get is, I'd like to make an amended motion that we have legal bring to BF&T the methodology of how and what and all that, based upon what other cities have done, what our legal thinks is the right thing to do, so that we could consider the mechanics of doing this. That would be my amended motion.
Which committee?
BF&T, since it's money.
Second.
And lastly, I would say, I completely get the, 1/10 of a second, 2/10 of a second thing, but if we're going to use technology, which I'm a firm believer in, if we're going to use technology to force multiply or to create efficiencies and create effectiveness, if we're going to do that, with technology comes constraints of some very bright line, black and gray things. You set the timing to this, the camera takes a picture at this, it's all very black and white, and so if we're gonna use technology, I think people just need to understand that, yeah, 1/10 of a second isn't much, but you have to set the line somewhere, and where you set the line is where you set the line. And so I just want people to understand that when we choose to use technology, we have to accept what comes with it, and not just in this circumstance, but in any others where we're going to use technology. So I would support a motion, I would support the amended motion that we get a presentation in the next 30 days from legal on how and what and all that.
And does your motion is to go to committee, have the presentation, and make the vote?
Within 30 days.
Okay. Councilmember Foster.
I think Councilmember Curtis actually answered some of my questions. I too am in support of refunding money when we've made a mistake. I'm concerned with this particular motion
people had known this information, they might would have been more likely to appeal and letting the judicial person make the decision. I think it's a bad, I think there's consequences to setting a precedent that the city council will make those decisions. But I also think in the effort of fairness to our citizens, having a judicial process makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of things that I don't feel that I should rule on as a city council member that a judge or magistrate should rule on. So I think it's great that we're going to have that discussion. What I think is fair, and I'm certainly open to hearing all the information, what I think is fair is to allow the people who got the tickets to have a judicial process that if they want to come in and appeal the ticket with the new information, that they have that chance. I saw a video, and I don't know that it was one of our red light camera videos, I don't know if it was at that intersection, where two cars in two lanes are going right side by side towards the red light, one stops, one keeps going. I don't know that a judge or a magistrate is going to say, if you're the one that kept going, you deserve to have your ticket refunded. And I don't think that that I have the time for the training, the legal training, to first of all, I don't have the time to review 776 tickets or 1,700, whatever the number is. Second of all, I don't have, even if I did that, I do not have judicial training. There's a reason we have judges. There's a reason why we have a court system. I think that's how, if we're going to do it, that's what I will support myself. But I think going to committee is a really good idea, rather than just making a hasty decision up here that in retrospect we may regret. That may be the wrong decision.
Thank you. Councilmember Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to oppose this. And first, Charlie, looking at what we have scheduled on BF&T, unless we move the approval of the property insurance or external audit, I don't necessarily see being able to get it to BF&T within 30 days. So,
Well, the next great meeting, I just wanted to put some kind of time in it.
okay, and I, I just want to be upfront with what we can accomplish in that 30-day time period. My second concern with this is the comparison to other cities that may have refunded. I don't know if Mike Fredericks is within the sound of our voice, but I believe he explained to us that the one city that did refund the monies did that because they did not adapt to the new statute. That they realized they had not adapted to the new statute, that they did not send the money to the state, that they did not send the money to the Miami project, and therefore they had all that money still within their coffers, knowing that they had not complied with the statute. I don't think those facts apply to us, and I would ask legal of the question, are we, if the people that got the tickets had an opportunity to contest the tickets in a judicial manner as approved by the legislature, would it be improper for us to be giving city money away?
They did have an opportunity to contest the tickets.
Not for the reason we're talking about, though.
Not for the reason, but they did have an opportunity to contest the tickets. Those tickets have been paid. The question remains, since those judicial determinations have been made, do you owe them anything? If you do not owe them anything, what is the public purpose in spending the money? If there is no public purpose in spending the money, then you could be personally liable for the payments.
That's why we need to have a legal presentation.
And so Mike, come into the, Mike, did you, Mike?
Yes, I did. Mike Frederick, Transportation Department. It's my understanding that Lake City did pay that back fines that were issued after December 31st because they were not able to adjust their signal timing according to the new directive from the DOT to add that 0.4 seconds in time. So all the vehicles that were cited for running a red light, the lights improperly timed without adjusting
I have updated numbers.
Well, let me just use the numbers out of the math on, assuming, but if it was 1,700 tickets, that would be $268,600, of which the city got net about $35,700. And the other $232,000 went either to the state or to the administration. So if we return it, that would be something similar to the, having to eliminate, say, the summer youth jobs program. I mean, that's the scale. I mean, I want to give you a sense of, that, we're not talking about pocket change here. I mean, $268,000 as we're trying to compress a $2.5 million deficit is not chump change. I'll leave it there.
Councilmember Rice?
Thank you, Chair. Riddle me this. Why are we discussing now what the proper process is for getting refunds? Anybody who was there at the time could answer this, but surely it seems like when we were talking about implementing this program, it would be reasonable to expect that there would be some cases where we would need to refund a ticket. So it seems like a pretty basic thing to have in a contract of how we would address it. And what it kind of reaffirms to me is this notion that the state got away with a heck of a deal. They take the most money for these tickets while the city seems to absorb the risk. And now we're left here figuring out what to do to refund people the money who rightly deserve a refund because of faulty yellow light timing. So it's a process question, and could anybody answer that for me?
I'm not sure what the question is.
Did we not why wasn't this discussed when we passed the contract in the first place?
Because
Did it come up?
It was, the contract was modeled after the state law, and the state law requires pay the money to the state. Okay.
There is an appeal process in place, and
There were several.
the refunding of any ticket would normally be through the reappeal process. And the money, I'm not 100% sure, but there's that money would never have been forwarded to the state. That would have been gone back. The
Yes.
appeal process timing is set up.
Everybody has due process, as Councilmember Curtis said. If they didn't know about the timing issue, they wouldn't have brought it up.
Right.
Is that newly discovered evidence which links into what,
Post judgment motion.
which links into what Mr. Cornell said? What kind of process would you have to
So in other words, we did have a process for a refund in a more immediate time period, but after so much time has gone by and the money got deposited in the coffers, now we really don't know how to get some of that money back.
That's cool.
But I just want to, and one of the things is people don't pay the fine until after the adjudication. I mean, if somebody got a ticket and sent a check in, then they paid it. And if somebody contested the ticket, they would have the adjudication in front of the hearing officer, and they wouldn't pay it until they were found guilty. So really, there was no refund theory because it doesn't get paid until after the adjudication. And if you were going to appeal the adjudication, it wouldn't get paid until after the appeal was completed.
Okay, good explanation. Mr. New?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm okay with the substitute motion, but I just recommend we do it to a committee of the whole, because I'm not going to be up to date. I want to be able to vote on whatever comes out of that workshop. That's okay to make the motion.
Sure.
That way everybody has a voting right. Also, answer your question.
I'll accept that as a friendly amendment.
Thank you. Also, to answer your question, Ms. Rice, what happened was, this contract was not vetted by this council. In a haste to preempt the state, before they were talking about striking down yellow light camera law, we piggybacked off the Miami. So we didn't get the chance to do what you're saying. We didn't see the process in place to refund money. We didn't even have, we had a discussion, I remember Ms. Dirks had an admin discussion about where the fund would be deposited into a safety account or whatever, and then it was no, it's going to the general fund. only became in effect on July 1st, if I'm not mistaken. And that was,
You always have a right to appeal to a judge.
well, I'm talking about the one about the 9th Street in here in City Hall. That came vis-a-vis Mr. Ken Burke and his concerns and all the other clerk of the courts that had concerns about the people having a proper chance to appeal and the $115 fee. And that just happened. But if you had went into a court case for the lawyer, I'm not a lawyer, if you had went into appeal a traffic ticket or radar ticket and the officer showed up without certification for training on the radar, the judge would throw it out. This information that just came up, that we adjusted 3 intersections, all while we're issuing tickets and people are paying them on those intersections, is a taking, and that's wrong. So I don't know what they did with the money, I don't know who they gave it to, but the money was taken from the constituents and the law-abiding citizens, vis-a-vis means beyond their control.
Okay, Councilmember Curtis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll try and be brief, and I don't mean to be flippant, but this is the discussion that we need to have at the committee meeting.
Correct.
That's why. But I would just also say, and again, not meaning to be flippant or anything like that, but you know, these issues about getting a law and it not being administered properly, and you know, this is not unusual. Having to tweak things and fix things and do all that stuff, but for that, Social Security would have been canceled, Medicaid would have been canceled. The Affordable Health Care Act certainly took a beating 6 months ago. We need to try and make things better, not just kill them. You know, and we all know that legislative process is referred to as sausage making, and sometimes we have to be careful not to expect filet mignon on our plate when we know it came from a sausage factory. So we just need to be careful. And all I'm suggesting is a committee would be the right place to try and make this the best it can be. And lastly, I was never contemplating giving back any more than the city has. I don't think we can make commitments for giving back from the spine fund, the trauma fund, the state fund. I don't think we can do that. All I was talking about was the $21. So, but we can discuss that at the committee too.
Thank you.
I had my response. Thanks.
Okay, we have 3 comments.
Matt Farrell?
The short yellow refund issue is a mess. There's no question about it. And it won't be settled today no matter how you vote. But the facts are these. Going back over 2 years, there are at least 2,498 red light camera citations issued at the 3 affected intersections that would not have been issued if the city had said it was like properly using slope. The revenue generated to the city for these is probably close to $275,000 given a 70% payment rate, which is a little above the average the city's experienced for the run of the program. The money paid to ATS for these is definitely gone, but there's the possibility to get a majority of the money paid to the state in the form of credits on future payments. That should be looked into. Other programs allow for this, for some go back and forth between the city, reconciliation with municipalities and the state. I want to take a little different focus than I usually do and talk about the human cost of these short yellow tickets from some of the people I've been able to talk with this week who got these tickets that I reached out to. And I'm going to be talking to them about what happened today. A woman named Marcia was shocked when she got the ticket, and now she knows why. A man named John, who just started a new job last month, would have been here today if he could have gotten off work, said he would really like to have that money back. Jill said that the light changed too quickly. She didn't know what to do. Donna, a retired grandmother who's on Social Security and had to save and do without for 3 months, not making that up, in order to pay for her $158 fine. She would really like her money back. Joanne, who I talked to just a couple hours ago on the phone, she's very excited she might be getting that money back because she really needs it, and she wished me luck. There are a lot of people who got these tickets. We have to remember that if everything was working perfectly, they never would have gotten these in the first place, and the city never would have had the money in the first place. So to take responsibility to do the right thing, I think would be to give them at least least something back and say we're sorry. Thank you.
Leonard, Schmiege?
Hello, everybody. If you're, in this case, Matt pointed out, whose name was Donna, if your mom or your grandmother or your dad gets a ticket, and they say, but I'm a good driver, I don't understand. You know, I usually, I stop, I don't run red lights. And if they find out, well, why? It says, well, you didn't get enough time. You were supposed to get a little bit more time to get through that intersection. Oh, so it wasn't my fault then? That's correct. So you would think that you would get your money back, wouldn't you? If you go to the gas station, you pump 10 gallons of gas, you expect to get 10 gallons of gas. If 9 gallons comes out, the Department of Agriculture catches that gas station, right? They're brought up on charges. That's fraud. The city inadvertently committed fraud. Unless, of course, somebody knew that those timings were off and that they were supposed to do better calculations, then in that case, this city would have committed fraud as well. Personally, I think you're on the hook for the full amount because you're partners with the others, and you're the one saying this person broke the law, and you're the one sending the bill for the full 158, not just the part that you get to keep yourself. I mean, if you look at this as any commercial business was doing this in our city, you guys would put the hammer down on them. But when it's you're saying, well, it's going to be real tough to give them their money back. So if we can get away with it legally, let's just try and get away with it. Let's just let those people on Social Security and medical disability, you know what? It's not that much, $300,000. You know, how much did you give Sam's Club as a tax break? You know, maybe you can go back to them and ask them to give you another $300,000 and pay those taxes. Maybe they'll give you the money back to make that good. The point is, I really think you should stand up and do the right thing here. Now, furthermore, to Dudley's point, you know, saying that somebody, if they ran the red light, if they had enough time, I mean, if you shave 2 seconds off all the yellows, and lots of people run lanes tomorrow and say, hey, well, you ran a red light, that's the law. Well, the law is to also have enough time. I hope you guys can do the right thing. I hope you can figure out a way to make everybody happy. The only way I can think of, other than direct refunds, is some kind of credit. Maybe you get, you don't have to pay your water bill for a couple of months. Thank you.
Joshua White. Clear out findings and taking forward.
Okay. Read the motion.
The motion is to have legal break to a committee of the whole within the next 30 days method based on what other cities have done so that council can consider how to pursue it.
If I may, I believe the 30 days was changed to a
Or maybe
That was before it went to committee of the whole. Now it's committee of the whole, it's not the FD.
right, and I said it maybe.
Yeah.
Put it back in, you just scratched it out. It's committee of the whole. We couldn't get it in the BF&T.
Right.
No, I have the committee of the whole, I
Right.
scratched out within the 30 days.
Yes.
Could I ask a question of clarity? Are we talking about $21 or $158?
Well, that'll depend on how what and how.
Okay, so it's all going to be, okay.
It's up in the air.
We better that.
As I indicated earlier, I think it's probably going to have to go through some sort of process, as Mr. Cornell was saying.
We'll tell us that goes to committee of the whole.
There may be a way under the rules of civil procedure to do that, so that they can go back in front of the judge and see if the circumstances of the judge would change the open judgment.
So then this is to go to committee of the whole, this is not doing the final legislation. Roll call.
Dudley?
Yes.
what did the mayor's lead on this tell you about the motivations of the program?
Well, the program obviously had flaws from the beginning. We did a 30-day, I think, or 6-month trial when they were saying stop on yellow campaign. And I thought at that time, at 10 intersections, you could have calibrated everything. We have over 300 intersections. That never happened. So it was a lot of inconsistencies with equipment, timing, and ultimately the city blamed the cameras and not the yellow lights. But the mayor's leadership yesterday dropped the minimum, 545, showed me his willingness to try to make it right. Before, as you know, I've been fighting this thing since, I don't know, 2010. And, no, since 12, I'm sorry. I'm losing it. And then the administration wasn't even trying to hear it. I mean, they were just telling everybody, don't run red lights. The fact of the matter is, we were manufacturing red light runners. That's what we're doing. You can't screw with the timing and expect people to be able to comply. I mean, we have what I call at one legal level, a statewide and a standard. When they came out with this second law that contains the intersections, you can have yellow light times all over the place, and that's what people were doing. When you don't have a mandated consistency in yellow light time, that lends way for mischief, and that's what happened. And basically, a lot of people got fleeced. You hear all the excuses in there about the refund, but in actuality, you took that money. You know, right now, none of you guys are getting tickets for speeding. But if you go downstairs and get in your vehicle and get a ticket enough for speeding, you're going to be upset, especially if you didn't speed, you know. And unfortunately, we're blaming the other parties that are involved, because the traffic officers were sitting right here. No one asked them about giving the money back before they left. In fact, they brought that young lady with them to testify. That's what they've been doing. They'll take her around and get the personal, emotional part of it to get elected officials to keep these camera programs up and running and continue fleecing their citizens. But like I said, I appreciate the mayor's leadership, but I appreciate more so Mr. Matt Farrell. Without Mr. Matt Farrell, we would have never known what was going on. Staff was not forthcoming. Every time he brought up an issue, staff, they came back and they would tell us, they try to defend what Matt was saying instead of telling us how they were going to fix it. There was no proactivity going on, and I see it. It was all reactive, and I appreciate Mr. Matt Farrell for coming out and helping us as a private citizen, spending his own money on public record requests, engineering, slope tests, and all that. That meant the world, because without that, I don't think the elected officials would have been able to disseminate how this program was progressing.
Describe what the break-even or September 30th deadline means.
Well, what Mr. Nurse is alluding to right now, because of the concerns that the clerks brought up. Remember last year, the clerks came out with a whole bunch of concerns, the clerk reports, Ken Berg and the clerks over in Tampa, and I think down in Sarasota, about the due process of people being able to pay a ticket at the 158 rate instead of the $200-something rate. Because of those and some laws that came out of Tallahassee, they eased up on not citing people for right-hand turns. As you know, right-hand turns was 2/3 of the tickets at the intersection. But right-hand turns represented 0.01% of the accidents, which means they were non-factor. But that's where they made their money at. And when that got taken away, the ticket numbers dropped. That's what has happened. They won't tell you that. And because the ticket numbers have dropped, it's going to be hard to keep paying all these people that they got running this program. They got retired officers looking at film. They got court officers here for appeals process. They got people that are maintaining cameras in the traffic department. All that costs money. It's not going to be cost effective because it won't be enough money to pay them. So that's what he means about break even. Right now, I think as of the workshop, Councilman Nurse estimated that we were up maybe $14,000.
Are you concerned at all about possible adverse effects of getting rid of the cameras?
No, I'm not, because we spent approximately $92 million in our police department. That's $92 million. And the core responsibility of local elected officials is public safety. We're doing that. We raised taxes on these people, I think, in 2010 to the tune of, 2012 to the tune of $10 million to try to keep our services where they are. And people pay for that. So we have 545 officers. We're at full strength. It was also been told to me by motorcycle operations that they wanted to expand that. They were generating substantial traffic enforcement revenues that all stay right here with the city, minus the court fees and all. And they wanted to expand it and get more motorcycles. I think we're looking at doing that. We only have 2, maybe get 10. They're more agile. They can respond quicker. And maybe that's the way. But the previous chief didn't want to expand the motorcycles. But now, not having a new, well, the mayor option of hiring a new chief, maybe he can dictate what he wants done in that area.
You said that red light runners, the numbers are dropping. With the loss of these cameras, do you expect that behavior to continue, or possibly could red
Well,
light
you can't, I mean, when you talk about behavior, okay, and you talk about how many tickets the road at these intersections, you have to show me the same traffic count of the same time prior year. You know what I'm saying? Who's to say people haven't found out that ticket cameras are there and they ain't driving that way no more? They might be driving down the back roads. So you got less traffic on that street. You know what I'm saying? Also, if you have people, they talk about 70%, 5% of people get them, don't come back. We spend a lot of money to lure people into our beautiful city, which is the fourth largest city in the state. Well, if you get someone come in and get a ticket that they didn't think they should have gotten, they're not going to come back and spend money in the city, in our restaurants, in our shops, and with our businesses. So, I mean, economically, it hurts you too. When you got divisive measure in your town, it's going to draw people away. How many of you went downtown and spent $400 or $500 with your family eating dinner, only to come out to find a $20 party and get some of your waist share? How does that make you feel on Friday night when you just spent $500 in that time?
So come September 30th or the break, whenever it comes first, I mean, the cameras go away. The mayor had said that he would look into the possibility, if it becomes a problem again, possibly re-implementing them or bringing in new technology. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, do you think...
My thoughts on that, it won't be as easy. It won't be as easy. And the problem with it, really with the whole program, was we did not vet it. As a council, we did not vet it. You piggyback, Mayor Foster said that we piggybacked off what Miami was doing. When you piggyback, when you're buying police cars, or you're buying some sanitation truck, or you're buying a fire engine, you piggyback off of the next municipality and get a good price. But when it comes to things that are relevant to public safety, and that's going to impact the people we represent, we should be able to vet that. All this vetting you see now is after the fact. And the problem when we piggyback, council had no power. The only power we had was to kill it. We couldn't amend it, we couldn't change the right timing, we couldn't instruct the mayor to do jack. The mayor had to be willing to do it. And that's what happened. Your people elected 9 elected officials, but they only had 1 making the call. And the other ones couldn't do anything for it.
Get rid of these was overdue.
I think it was. I think it had, like I said, if we would have had more due diligence instead of piggybacking, council would have asked them in the trial phase, you know, is everything right? Is all the timings on? Did everybody do all the estimate calculations? We asked none of that. Because once they did that vote, it was 5-3. I voted no on that vote. It was myself, Councilman Cornell, and Councilwoman Rice that voted no. But once they pushed that through with 5 votes, we had no prejudice. It was all in the mayor's shop. The mayor could do whatever he wanted, and we couldn't tell them to do anything. Even though people was calling us with all these sob stories or I was adversely affecting them and have problems that they're having and light timing and all that, we could do nothing. You know, and that was unfortunate because you elected us to try to represent